Spot with David Rodgers. And now, here he is, Mr. Friday Night, the show pony himself, the man, the dream, the legendary David Rodgers.
Good evening, good afternoon. Welcome to On the Spot with David Rodgers. I am your host, David Rodgers. Right along, sitting beside me right here, is attorney at law, Mr. Dan Sykes. Say hello to everybody, Dan.
Hello, everybody.
Yep, so we got him in here tonight because we got a really special show for you tonight. We got a big-time election coming up, and we want to make sure that you know what you're voting on, especially the amendments that's going to be on the ballot this year. So Dan Sykes is going to come in here, and we're going to go over all those amendments with you and explain them to you. We've talked about this. We wanted him on the show a few weeks ago, but our schedules got a little tangled up, and then, of course, this storm came through. And by the way, I hope everybody's made it through the storm okay. Dan, how'd you make it through the storm? Are you all right? Everything's good?
We were blessed. I mean, my daughter, she lives about Lake Hampton. She lost power for a few days. And my other daughter over in Tallahassee, they lost all their stuff. They get blocked in because of downed trees.
Right.
And it took like 3 or 4 days for them to get their power back on. But everybody's safe.
Yeah, everybody's safe around here. And, you know, for our brothers and sisters over there on the West Coast, over there around that Big Bend area, my goodness, I know you've seen the photographs. Dave, you've seen the photographs. Everybody's seen the photographs at that horrific view of that Cedar Key as a horrible Steinhatchee, Horseshoe. All that area is just, keeping all that is just horrible. And it's going to take a very long time, Dan, for if they rebuild, for them to rebuild that area, isn't it?
Yeah, especially if we got another potential storms coming up right now.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, and we're going to discuss that later on in the show. But again, welcome to On the Spot with David Rodgers. I'm your creator and host, David Rodgers, right along with the dancing destroyer himself, Mr. Dave Holland. Say hello, Dave.
Hello, everybody.
And by the way, Dave bought him a brand new truck. He got him a 2023 Dodge Ram, wasn't it, Dave?
Yeah.
Yeah, with the 5.7 in it. Yeah,
I think so.
Yeah, it's called the Bighorn, I think.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, that's the Bighorn, isn't it? Yeah, that's a very pretty truck out there, by the way. So congratulations on that. Of course, Dan drives a Ferrari, so
I don't think so.
I couldn't turn it down. They made a great deal. I got the same monthly payment that I had with my car, and my insurance company gave me a $20 deduction.
Yeah.
My wife and my daughters get new cars. I drive a 2013 F-150. I'm good.
That's the Ferrari I was talking about.
Yeah.
That's the Ferrari I was talking
I
about.
have never owned a truck.
Now, you can't say anymore?
No,
No,
you can't
this
now.
is my first one.
Yeah, and that's great. So things looking up for everybody. And again, we're going to get into the weather and of course, all the effects of the storm a little bit later on in the show. No Byron Bagwell tonight. Unfortunately, I know he wanted to be here, Dan. He was like, man, gosh, I really want to get into these amendments and hear what Dan's got to say about them. But I know Byron's tuning in. He's working at his job. He works for Haven Hospice. So you know how that goes when you're delivering things and all that kind of stuff to people in need, that your schedule sort of gets a little loose. And you know Mitchell Gunner, of course, Mitchell. Mitchell now, I don't know if you knew this, Dan, and I'll fill you in. Mitchell does a show called On the Spot Motorsports.
Oh, cool.
With David Rodgers. It's really not with David Rodgers. We called it On the Spot Motorsports Media. It's a sister page to ours, and he does his shows on Thursday nights.
Okay.
At 7 o'clock, so he brings on all these racers, all these different engine builders, things like that, and he talks about motorsports in general, mainly not NASCAR, but NHRA. He's a big NHRA guy, but he gets into all the different motorsports, and that page is really taken off for us, and going to some big events. So Mitchell, as I'm sure, is watching, or he will be on, and we'll talk about his show here in just a little bit. But let's get the show started as we always do with our prayer, our pledge, and our patriotic quote of the night. again, anybody that's watching in, please bow your heads and let's go into prayer. Our righteous Heavenly Father, thank you for another wonderful and glorious day you've given us, dear Lord. Thank you for this time that we have with our brothers here On the Spot with David Rodgers and On the Spot Motorsports Media. Thank you for letting us just have this time to be able to share our knowledge and the things that we need to share with our viewing audience, and let them take that and just do what it is that they need to do with that information, dear Lord. Thank you for letting us live in the greatest country in the world today, dear Lord, the United States of America. The most freest and powerful country in the world today. Yes, I know we have our own issues and our own problems, but with your guiding hand and your touch, we can make this country great again. Thank you for our armed forces, each and every one of those men that are serving today, whether it's here in the United States, dear Lord, or abroad, dear Lord. Keep a hedge of protection over them and let them come home safely, dear Lord, as they are out there protecting our freedoms and our rights from domestic and international terrorism or anything else that wants to harm us, dear Lord. Thank you for our first responders, each and every one of those men and women that go out in each and every day and sacrifice their lives and put their lives on the line for our safety, so we can go home each and every night and feel safe within our homes. Thank you, dear Lord, for the food that we receive each and every day as it goes to the nourishment of our bodies and our bodies to thy service. Any spoken or unspoken prayer requests, dear Lord, please touch each and every one of them. You're the guiding and the ultimate healer, dear Lord. You know their issues and their problems, dear Lord, and you can comfort them in the way that you see fit. Anybody that was in the path of this hurricane, dear Lord, please touch each and every one of those families, those men and women, and anybody that lost any family members in this storms, dear Lord, that you just touch them and make it more comfortable for them, dear Lord. I know they lost some precious loved ones, many of them, and you are the guy, you are the man that can just comfort them and just see compassion for them, dear Lord. Again, thank you for this night. Thank you for this time that we have together. Thank you for this great day you've given us and the great week that's upcoming. And we ask for these things in your Son's name, Jesus Christ. And the congregation says,
Amen.
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 All right, Dave, we're going to go into our pledge now. And we're going to stand for our pledge. And I'm going to ask Mr. Dan Sykes if he'll lead us in our pledge tonight.
I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen.
Play ball.
Play ball.
One other thing, everybody include in your prayers, if you don't mind, please, the people of Israel. They're under attack, and so let's keep them in our prayers as well.
Absolutely,
Yes.
absolutely, and that's we've got a lot of things going on in the world today. Just so I know, you just heard last night the longshoremen are on strike right now. We've got this thing going on in Israel. We've got the Ukraine and Russian deal going on. We've got the Chinese out there wanting to attack us as well, whether it's by military force or by economical force. Anyway, they're a threat to us, and no doubt about it. But I haven't heard much from the Chinese lately. Have you?
Well, it's not for tonight, but if you ever want, I was when I was military intelligence and special forces, my area of responsibility was the People's Republic of China. So I can tell you some interesting background on them. And they're having more problems than most people realize.
Yeah.
They instituted a policy where you could only have one child, and now they do not have enough coming up young people to take over the economy. It's heavy with the elderly people and not enough people to replace them, and their economies it's on the verge of collapse. Mm-hmm. And so the dangerous thing about that is they could potentially reach out and attack because of it, but they are not the all-powerful monster that people think that they are. So.
No, you're exactly right.
I'm not saying they're good
Scare
people.
tactics.
I'm not saying they're good people, but I'm saying that in reality, they're not they're not that powerful.
No, they're not. All right, we've got our quotes of the night. I'm going to test Dan and you and everybody in the audience out there. Of course, we always come up with a quote of the night. And I'll tell you this. These two quotes that I have are from famous writers or authors in time. And I'll read them to you, and you see if you can tell me who they are. The first one's really simple. No man is a failure who has friends. No man is a failure who has friends. Who would you think may have said that? Author back in the day.
potentially Mark Twain. I'm not sure, but
You got Mark Twain, all right?
I probably would go with.
You
Mark
would go with
Twain.
that? You go with Mark Twain? Well, guess what? Both of y'all are absolutely correct. It is Mark Twain. Nice job, nice job. All right, 1 for 1. Let's fight with words till time to lend friends and friends their helpful swords. Let's fight with general words, till time lends friends and friends their helpful swords.
Is this an American person?
No.
no, that's Winston Churchill.
That's
All right, you like Winston Churchill.
That's what I was
All right, you
thinking.
like Winston Churchill. Any guesses on the panel here? As I'll greet everybody in. Austin Stevens, I know you're waiting at Zaxby's there. Wrong time to choose that place, buddy, because I can assure you, I know you're not going to be here anytime soon. Donnie Wiggs is watching. Alan Crawford's watching. Dave Holland's watching. D.A.
right,
Dennis Cruz is
there's
watching. Shirley Bagwell's watching. She says, good evening, gentlemen, to everybody. So good evening to you, Shirley. And I'll call you after a while because I got to talk to you about something anyway. But no, that is William Shakespeare that said that.
Oh,
William Shakespeare.
He
Yeah.
was my next.
Yeah, he was your next guest. So, yeah, your next guest. All right. Well, anyway, welcome on the spot with David Rodgers. I'm your host, David Rodgers, right along with Mr. Dave Holland. No Byron Bagwell tonight. Mr. Austin Stevens will be coming in a little bit later
All
on.
right.
We'll talk a little bit about the weather. But I brought Mr. Dan Sykes in here, attorney at law, because we had talked several weeks ago about doing this show and talking about the amendments that's going to be on this year's ballots. And Dan is very, he studied these, he knows these, and he's going to give everybody a little bit of an insight on these particular amendments. And we're going to go ahead and get right into it right now. So I know Dan's a busy man, and he's charged me for being here. So I got to make sure that I get my time's worth in. Actually, Dan's a good man. He's helped us out on a lot of things, and I really appreciate what he not only has done for my family, but what he does for the community as well. Dan, I'm gonna just start going. I'm just gonna go ahead and start with Amendment 1.
well, no, let's not.
Okay, you want to do that?
I want to talk about the
Oh yeah, that's right.
process. in
Yeah, the
general.
process. Yeah. Go ahead.
One,
Yeah.
one of the problems that we have in the state of Florida, it is way too easy to amend the Constitution by virtue of the popular vote. Once you get this up there on the page, it can be done. What happens then is all these things that should be legislative in nature, determined by the legislature as opposed by constitutional amendment, become determined by constitutional amendment. And when you lock them into the Constitution, you got to do another constitutional amendment to change that again. One of which is going to be the first amendment proposal that we're talking about. Previously, it was a constitutional amendment that made running for the school board to be
Right.
nonpartisan.
Right.
And so, as a general rule, okay, if I don't know what the constitutional amendments say,
Right.
and I can't see why it's a good idea, if it's not clearly a good idea, my policy personally is to vote no. Okay, because if you don't know what it is and you don't understand why you want to vote in favor of them, vote no. Okay. But if you want to know more about it, dig into it. There's a lot of ways you can look at it. You can look it on Google. You can go on YouTube. There's lots of ways to get after this information. But make sure you understand before you vote yes. Because, boy, you had the high-speed train. Why is that a constitutional amendment? Okay? And then we're undoing prior constitutional amendments. They're trying to do it right now by new constitutional amendments.
Right.
It gets just too convoluted. The United States Constitution has a much more difficult process to change things, but that ensures the concrete aspect of the United States Constitution.
So I'm glad you brought that up because I know there's some people out there that read over these things, man, and they read over it with a fine-tooth comb, Dan, and they go, David or Dave or Byron, I still don't understand it. How can they get more information to understand? In other words, I mean, besides reaching out to somebody that really knows this, how can they get a little bit more in depth as far as knowing?
Well, there's a lot of voter guides out there, and the voter guides will, depending on what your preference of it is, you'll hear voter guides having one way or the other. So you can look online for voter guides for these constitutional amendments.
Right.
But I would even be careful about the voter guides because there's an agenda there. Okay. I personally, what I do is I look as broad-based as I can before I make a decision one way or the other, and I'm going to make a decision based upon what I think is right for our state.
Right.
Okay?
Correct.
And so I can talk about each one of these and tell you why I'm not going to tell people how they should vote, but I will in the process of these tell you where I kind of stand and why I stand
Yes.
that way. Okay,
Yep.
but that doesn't mean I'm right, and you don't have to agree with me because basically it's up to you to make your own informed decision.
Yeah, and that's what our show is all about, Dan. You know, we bring out information all the time, and I know you've watched probably a couple of episodes of the show or have heard about it. And you know, what we say here is the information that we receive. You know, we read over it. We you know, we try to decipher it and bring it down to the level of everybody that's watching instead of talking those big mumble jumble words. You know what I mean? Because I guarantee you, I've had somebody, remember a couple of times, was probably several months ago, somebody said, man, I didn't understand the daggone thing you said. And I said, well, I almost didn't either. But no, but I mean, you know, I did know, but I need to bring it down to the level of the viewer that maybe doesn't understand some of those big fancy words and understand maybe exactly what I said. You know, I didn't read it verbatim, the particular thing I was saying, but I put it in my own words, but I used some of the words that was in the context when I used it.
Well, I watched I've watched a couple of your shows, okay?
Yeah.
And I really particularly like the show with you and Brian Kramer because I thought you just
Yeah.
did a wonderful job. He's
Appreciate
a good
it.
candidate
Yes,
for a
he
state
is.
attorney, and I want everybody to vote for him. He's a very good man. You know, one thing that I'll tell you about prosecutors is prosecutors' jobs are to seek justice, not simply convict. And I think Brian Kramer's one of those people.
Yeah, he did. He said that, and absolutely right. So, anyway, we're going to start with these, Dan. Let's start with Amendment 1, I guess.
Okay.
You want to start with 6 or 1?
No, start with 1.
Let's start with 1, okay.
Go
All right.
We'll work down one at a time.
We'll work that one at a time. All right. I didn't know if you want to go backwards or forwards, but we'll go to Amendment 1.
What's on the drink?
No, water if you can, please.
Okay. So, Amendment 1, I'm just breaking it down as I got it here on mine, and I know you got a little bit more information, but
Cheat
I'm going to give you
sheets.
the cheat sheets. There you go. Bring politics into local school board elections by making them partisan nullifies part of a 1998 amendment passed by 64% of Florida voters that ensures school board races are nonpartisan. Creates closed party primaries that take away the ability for millions of Floridians to vote in school board elections.
Okay, what they did before is there was a constitutional amendment that took these types of races and made them nonpartisan. And the idea was that these races shouldn't be political in nature. Hey, that's a great idea. And in Congress, is it you prepared to be examined? And I'll tell you, it's important to hear these people through the primary process so you get to glean out, what people actually say and what they mean.
And I'll give you a prime example. And again, there was a school board race here just the last time where there was 3 people involved in one particular district, and and the incumbent, what I've heard, has done a fairly good job, and then the other 2, which I know very well, I knew all 3 candidates very well. We're good people, and the one is particularly close to us. And I thought he went out there and did everything that he could possibly do to win that particular school board seat. Mm-hmm. Well, it didn't happen. And I know what he is registered as. And I think this is, to me personally, I may be wrong, Dan. You can correct me here.
No.
I think that sort of hurt him a little bit in that particular race because he couldn't put his party affiliation to it and then discuss the items or the particular things that he wanted to do under that particular.
Got it.
Yeah.
No, I agree. And
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not. Listen, Mitch Gunter is a great guy. Okay?
Yes, he is.
And
Yes.
I wasn't in his district, so I wasn't able to vote for him.
Yeah.
And I'm, but I will tell you the bottom line of it is, I think it's really important that you see what these people stand
Yeah.
for, what they mean. And I think having the party affiliation being out there and open and
Yeah.
public is a very powerful way of doing it. And if somebody doesn't want to do it, they can always run it as an independent.
Right. And that's what I thought. And actually, I learned something, and I didn't realize that either until he had told me, because I said, man, you're running to the Republican, the Republican statute. And he goes, no, this is a nonpartisan election. And I didn't realize that until this past election. I didn't know it was all nonpartisan.
Yeah, and I'll tell you right now, my position on this, I'm going to vote yes on that. You don't have to agree with me. You don't want to do it, but I'll tell you, I think it's important for you to know where your candidate truly stands.
Yeah, no, I agree. So, all right, that was Dan's breakdown on Amendment 1. Let's go to Amendment 2, Dan. Establishes a state constitutional right to hunt and fish, even though that right already exists in state law. Proclaims hunting and fishing the preferred means of responsibly managing and controlling fish and wildlife, potentially overriding existing wildlife protections.
Okay, what that comes down to, the people that are opposed to this, that they'll tell you that they don't like the language says that hunting and fishing is the preferred method of wildlife management. They don't like that. They prefer more scientific methods to do that. Well, you know, one of the problems that we have we have, as man has improved in our skills and our industrial might, we pushed animals off in the distance, and without having hunting and fishing, there's no other wildlife that will keep the game in check. In fact, there was a time, I can't remember what state it was, where they outlawed hunting of deer, and what happened is the deer population exploded, and then they ended up having people that were essentially, not people, but deers were overpopulated. They couldn't be supported, and these deer were suffering, and they had to be put down. And so using the wildlife management system of hunting and fishing goes a long way to manage those processes, because they don't have the natural predators that they used to have.
Right.
So I think that is an honest statement, and I don't know what other more scientific methods you potentially could use. Now, what's interesting is I think that the way this reads, people would say, hey, you know, I'm going to have a constitutional right to hunt and fish. Well, if you read the rest of the language of the Constitution, it preserves under Article 4 of the Florida Constitution the right to have fish and wildlife management, which is licenses. So simply because you vote in favor of it doesn't mean you don't have to get a license. You're still going to have to get a license.
Right. All right. So what would you vote there?
I'm going to vote in favor of yes. Because the other thing about it is there have been in other states laws that have been people have tried to introduce that have taken away hunting as a right, okay? And so if you recognize it as a right in Florida, it's not going to be quite so easy to take away.
Oh, again, welcome to On the Spot with David Rodgers. I am your creator and host, David Rodgers, right along with the Dancing Destroyer cleaning up my mess right now that I just did. Super Dave Holland. Austin Stevens has just now joined us. We'll be talking about the weather here in just a little bit, but right alongside of me, I got Mr. Dan Sykes, attorney at law. We're going over the amendments that's going to be on this year's ballot, and we've run over the first two already, and he's giving you a breakdown of those two. Mr. Byron Bagwell can't be here with us tonight as he's got a work commitment, and Mitchell Gunner, of course, he'll have his show Thursday night on the Spot Motorsports Media at 7 o'clock, so make sure you tune in for it. All right, we're at Amendment 3, and this is probably the biggest one to me of the whole thing. This is what everybody always asks me about. What do you think about Amendment 3? And I'll read it out to you. Legalizes recreational use of marijuana for adults 21 or older, providing access to safe, regulated marijuana products. Removes criminal penalties for adults 21 and up for simple possessions of marijuana in small quantities.
Okay. Well, here's the thing on that. As a general concept, I've always been opposed to legalizing marijuana.
Right.
However, and this is the only reason I'm in favor of it now. I'm in favor of this amendment, and I'll tell you why. Because I can tell you, as a criminal defense attorney, dealing with the issues that we have out there criminally with people being prosecuted, right now we have this influx of fentanyl that's coming in from China.
Yes.
And that's coming across the border without having sufficient safeguards to keep it from coming across the border. So fentanyl is being taken and introduced into marijuana to make it more powerful and to make it into a stronger drug. And so people are buying this and they're smoking marijuana, not realizing they're taking fentanyl at the exact same time, because it bumps up the effects of the marijuana. And so what happens then, we have kids that are dying from fentanyl poisoning because of this, okay? We have not only that, we have people that are being prosecuted for having the fentanyl inside the marijuana or the cocaine or all these other things that are out there. So fentanyl is a dangerous product, and I would highly recommend well, not highly recommend, but the issue of it is that I think the best way to protect our youth, because they're going to do this anyhow, but one of the best ways to protect it is to legalize it so you can make sure that product is not contaminated with fentanyl. And
Right.
fentanyl is such a dangerous thing. That's why I have no problem with this. Now, some of the people that oppose this say the language is too broad, and it won't allow counties and cities to be able to stop people from smoking marijuana on the streets.
Right.
Well, I don't know if that's true, because I think that to a certain extent, it's going to deal with the construction by the courts of this, and there's certain reasonable time, place, and situation mechanics that I think the counties and the cities can do. Okay,
Right.
and so you're not criminalizing; you're just saying don't use it here, don't use it there. And a civil infraction is not the same thing as a criminal prosecution.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So you can get a civil infraction for all sorts of things. Doesn't make it criminal. Doesn't make it something you're going to go to jail on. So while I understand some of the positions that people that are opposed to marijuana, I just see this as an issue that maybe I think it's time to legalize it, and I think it's time to control it, and I think it's time to protect the younger citizens of our country.
All right, so I got a question for you on this. So if we vote yes on this and we do legalize this, where do you see the tax dollars going when you purchase marijuana?
Well, what they're talking about is that the taxes from this will go into the education system. It'll
Okay.
go into the schools. So by taxing this, you're able to improve funding for our educational systems,
Yeah.
which is the other reason that I'm in favor.
That's the same approach that Nevada did.
Yes.
That's the same thing they said with the lotto system also.
Well, this is true, but I think I can't explain what happened in Lotto. I'm not going to go there.
That could be another.
That's
Yeah,
all.
well, we really delved into that, me and Byron, several weeks ago, about those dollars from the lottery and where we thought that this may have went. But like I said, that's another time for another show and a continuation of another show, because I've got my own opinion on where that money went. But if this truly, as you said, goes to education, then definitely it's going to help the educational fund for sure. Right now teachers are buying their own supplies. You already know this.
I know
Dan.
that, yeah.
They're buying their own supplies. They're buying their own paper. They're buying their own paper towels. They're buying their own napkins and hand sanitizers and all that. And maybe this money right here can help alleviate some of that cost that these teachers are incurring, each and every year when they not just start school, but during the school year as well.
No, I think that's correct. One of the problems that we're going to have with that is that it's going to put us at odds with the federal system, which still has marijuana as being illegal. And so, and that goes to the issue of amounts on the federal system. But it can be done. Nevada, other states have done this. And so I think it helps out the financing of our education system. And I think that it helps regulate the marijuana to make sure we don't have fentanyl in it. Fentanyl's bad.
Yeah, Dwight Allen's got a good point. Let me get your take on this. And I knew this amendment was going to be the biggest one out of the whole 6 that we have on here. But he said marijuana grows naturally and should really never be criminalized.
And certain plants ferment naturally, and we regulate alcohol.
Right.
And there's certain things that you can't distill it yourself because there's problems you can get into potentially. Having your own. I'm not going to go there. But I got it. I understand his point.
Yeah.
And I fundamentally agree with it. But just about everything can be found in nature in one fashion or another.
Yeah, you're right.
So.
He says, Dan, the government will find a way to waste those tax dollars like always.
Oh, I would absolutely agree with that. I mean, the one thing about it is that what did Ronald Reagan say? Some of the most frightening words that you'll ever hear is, "We're the government and we're here to help."
Yeah, we're here to,
because the government always finds a way to screw everything up. I personally, I don't trust government very much. I really don't.
Well, we don't either. So, Mitchell Gunner's got a question. By the way, he says hello. With the amendment on marijuana, will it make a monopoly for companies and keep others from growing and selling?
No, I think that basically it's going to be an open-ended system. There are some laws that are out there that we have that keep people from establishing a monopoly, and so I think that I don't believe that there'll be a monopoly. And if there is, there's things that the state can do to break that up. I can't guarantee you that there won't be somebody that tries to monopolize the system. You typically will have a couple businesses that will take over and dominate it. But if you have the right market forces and you have the right business plan, look at what Elon Musk has done.
Yes. Yes.
So you can get into it, and you can shake the field up. And I think that you got to trust the market. And I don't trust the government to have all these regulations to get in the middle of it.
Right.
So, but I think the market forces will take care of that.
Shirley Bagwell says, thanks for bringing that up, as I too have wondered about it. Would it be like the lottery and wouldn't really help education? Well, that's what they're saying they're going to do with it, but who knows what they're going to do with it. You're hoping that's what they're going to do with it. But like I said, about trusting the government, I mean, hey, they say one thing and do 12 others.
That's a fact. So I'm not. So my basis for voting for it has nothing to do with their proposed funding. I would hope that that's true, but it's all about the issue of fentanyl, and I just think it is that much of a dangerous thing.
I agree with you.
I agree with you on that too. I do. And by the way, too, somebody asked me about this, and I'll get Dan's opinion on it. So, I work for a particular company that there's zero tolerance. Zero tolerance on alcohol, zero tolerance on marijuana. Just because if this amendment passes doesn't mean that you can go out there and smoke marijuana and you get plopped on a urinalysis test the following day. Doesn't mean that you're going to be okay, because our particular company has a zero tolerance. They can't go back to this amendment and say, hey,
No,
I'm allowed.
no.
It's
like drinking.
Yeah.
If you drink off the job and go on the job, drink. I was an aviator. And I flew helicopters for the Army.
Yeah.
And there were rules about how many hours from the effects of alcohol before you could fly. And so what?
Well, I have a marijuana card.
So does my wife.
Says I can smoke.
But that doesn't mean you can drive your car stoned.
Stoned.
Okay?
Yeah, and that's what. Yes, and that's what I want to. Yeah, if your company has a policy, and it's zero tolerance, i.e., we know about the armed forces because we were all in it, so we know that that's zero tolerance. But if your company has a zero tolerance policy on this, I would not suggest that you go out there and smoke you up some marijuana at your house on a weekend, and then you come back on Monday and the safety guy goes, hey man, you got to go for a urinalysis test, and you get popped, and then you go back and say, hey man, well, Amendment 3 says I can do it. Well, Amendment 3 says you can do it, but your company says otherwise.
That's right. and that's not criminal.
No.
And I got to share with you real quick.
Yes, sir.
In the Army, every time they told us we're having a urinalysis test, I hope I don't get in trouble with this.
No.
Every time they had a urinalysis test, my question was, are we testing for distance or accuracy?
Yeah. Well, I'm going to let me get one real quick, but just to follow with this, I'll let you follow up. So, one of my jobs when I was in the Navy was I was the urinalysis coordinator.
Yeah.
So I would have to go into the bathroom and watch you take a urinalysis test.
Poor David.
Yes, poor David. I think I can say this. You know what they used to call me?
Uh-oh.
Peter Pan.
Meat gazer. So there you go. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that you get with this. So hopefully Facebook don't cut me off, and I don't think they will. That's just a pretty good joke. But I understand what you're saying. So, so you're going to vote yes on amendment? You personally?
Personally, I'm going to.
All right. If anybody's got any more questions about this, please hit us up. You can hit him up. Hey, put his email address up there again. Do you mind taking?
No, it's not.
Yeah. So y'all all know where Dan Sykes' office is. I'm sure y'all probably have used him or got some legal counsel from him at time to time. But you can tell him where you're at, Dan.
I'm behind. Where you used to be able to get your fentanyl fizz.
Yeah.
What was it? The Sonics.
The Sonic. Yeah, the Sonic.
I'm right behind the Sonic that was shut down for fentanyl. But and I'm not very far from the courthouse either.
Yeah, what's that bar right there?
Whiskey River.
Whiskey River.
Whiskey River, right behind Whiskey
What
River.
me and Byron call the dungeon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
But you can reach him at dan.sykes30@gmail.com.
and it's also 904-964-2020.
And I bet I know the person that would probably answer that phone.
Yeah, I bet you do.
I bet I do. Okay.
I do too.
Yeah, there you go. So Byron says, will you have all three governments involved, local, state, and federal,
For what?
on Amendment 3?
I think federal is not going to be part of it. Okay, this is all state. Okay, so this is a state law. It has
Yeah.
nothing to do with federal. Now,
Okay.
the issue of it is that there is a preeminence of federal law. So if you're growing marijuana and you have the requisite number of plants, requisite means the needed
The
number,
needed number,
for the
right.
jurisdictional amount,
Right.
then you will be violating federal law. So you have to comply with state law. But I think there's going to be certain ordinances that the county and the city can do
Right.
that's regulatory in nature, but not criminal, because this decriminalizes it. It doesn't say that you can't establish a certain degree of civil
Correct.
infractions.
Right.
Okay, different thing. Making it legal does not mean that you can't have civil infractions. You know, it's not against the law to drive 10 miles an hour over the speed limit, but it's a civil infraction. Okay, so the same thing here. I think they'll be able to do certain civil infractions. I think the courts will interpret it in that fashion. You know, because the language, there's people that can make the argument that the language would be a little bit more restrictive, but knowing the way that the courts are, and the courts are generally conservative, they're going to interpret in such a fashion that it's more restrictive.
Right.
So what you're saying, from a mind like mine, it's not a federal, it's a state.
It's a state issue, so the
But
federal law,
if it's illegal federally,
it's still illegal with the state
it's
because
still illegal with the state, but the difference is the wording.
right. What happens on the federal laws when it comes to marijuana? It has to do to the weight or number of plants.
I was just getting ready. Yeah.
Okay.
Gotcha.
And so if you have so many, I can't remember what the law is, but I've dealt with it before.
Amendment 3 says you can grow 9 plants
Right.
or 6 plants, and you grow 12 plants, you're violating
Both
the
the
law.
state law and you're potentially violating the number goes to federal law.
Law.
And then the other issue goes into the weight. So you know, what's the weight? And then you have the issue: is the weight done while it's wet or dry? I mean, there's all sorts of you know, lawyers can screw everything up.
Yeah. So Byron says something that you just got into. He says, I can see it. Here comes the lawsuits. I think I know what he's trying to say there.
Oh yeah, that's going to happen.
It's going to happen.
There's gonna be
Yeah,
challenges.
there's going to be challenges
There's
for
gonna be
sure.
challenges. Because the thing about it is that whenever these types of law comes out, you know, there's going to be challenges. I mean, I
Yeah.
get news for it. Almost every one of these ones could be challenged in one fashion or another.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, lawyers got to make money. We got to feed my wife and my children. So
That's all right. You got to pay somebody that I know as well too. So that's a good thing.
she's worth every dime I pay her.
I appreciate that.
Oh, smack. I hear smack talking.
Yeah, no, well, hey, I tell you, I'm going to have to disagree with you, Austin, because she is worth every
She's
penny
good. She's good.
for sure. Amendment 4, let's go with it.
Okay, so Amendment 4, I'm talking. Well, you want to read it? Go ahead and read
Yeah,
it.
I'll read it here. Ensures that Floridians, not politicians, are able to decide what is best for their own lives and bodies by limiting government interference with abortion. Overturns Florida's abortion ban, which outlaws abortion before many women even realize they are pregnant, and provides no real exception for rape or the health of the patient.
All right, so let me, because this is one of those subjects, no matter what you say, you're going to offend somebody. So
That's correct.
Let me kind of give you my frame of reference going into this, okay? I am kind of a mixture of a conservative and a libertarian. I can tell you as a conservative, I do not like personally the abortion. I don't like it, okay? I don't prefer it. I have problems with it. But as a partial libertarian, there's certain aspects of each of our bodies that the government should have the right of interfering with. And there's the balancing test that needs to be done. One of the things that offends me the most is the fact that we even have to, well, the way this issue became framed, okay? Prior, let's give you, I don't get to be too complicated, but I gotta explain this, okay?
Yeah.
The principal objection to Roe versus
Roe v.
Wade,
Wade,
okay,
yeah.
was the fact that the United States Constitution had no specific right to privacy. And you have a series of cases that built up and presumed the right to privacy and built it up over the years that led to Roe versus Wade. My favorite one was Oklahoma versus Skinner, which
Right.
Oliver Wendell Holmes had to do with whether or not you could not euthanize, but you could sterilize somebody that was mentally deficient. And his quote was, 3 generations of imbeciles is enough.
yeah.
And that led on, and this and that, and it got to Roe versus Wade. The problem with Roe versus Wade is beyond the fact of the presumed right to privacy, which is not in the United States Constitution. It also sounded legislative in nature, in that courts typically don't establish a certain degree in these patterns the way you have it in Roe versus Wade. They had talked about the first trimester, second trimester, and the third trimester in a way that no law had ever talked about before, and it was from the bench. And you hear conservatives often talk about they're legislating from the bench, and you will hear that quite often from conservatives. Don't legislate from the bench. Well, here, when they outlawed, the United States Constitution, the Supreme Court reversed Roe versus Wade.
Correct.
Okay. What was left in the state of Florida, we had a right to privacy specifically framed in the Florida Constitution. And so I was asked by a number of people about that. I said, well, because there's a right to privacy in the Florida Constitution, I think that it's going to be a situation where the courts have to recognize that abortion is lawful in Florida. Abortion is lawful in Florida, and then you're going to have constitutional amendment to restrict it in whatever ways you want to do it, and it's going to require the citizens to participate in that process, which the citizens should be participating in.
They should, yeah.
But what happened is our conservative judges that will always tell everybody don't legislate from the bench. They legislated from the bench, saying that the right to privacy doesn't mean you have a right to have an abortion in Florida. It's like, where the heck did they come up with that? You see what I'm saying? They completely flip-flopped everything because we had a right to privacy that was nowhere in the United States Constitution in Roe versus Wade. So now we have this constitutional amendment saying, specifying the right to the abortion. Now, I understand. I have very good friends that are just rabidly anti-abortion, and I got it, and I respect their position, and I understand why they say it, and I've got it. But I think potentially this kind of strikes that balance, because one of the biggest problems that I have with these free-ranging abortion laws that you have in other states, that you could do it into the second and third trimester, or further on.
Right.
Boy, I got problems with that, and so, but I've got no problems with allowing it to a certain extent. But there's things about it also that I have problems with. I don't like the idea that people use abortion as a form of birth control. Okay.
Right.
There's other methods that are available. Okay. But that's something about legislating morality that I really kind of like. I cringe at the government legislating morality. I do.
So, all right. So, how would you vote on this then?
I'm going to vote in favor of it. Not that I like it, but I think that to a certain extent and degree, I think that it strikes a balance that you don't otherwise have.
Right.
That sounds good.
All right. So I want to go back to Amendment 3 for just a second, because Shirley had a question that just came up here. Yep. She says, I'm just throwing this out, Dan. Shouldn't we be addressing the fentanyl issue?
Oh, gosh. Well, fentanyl already is illegal. And as a matter of fact, the amounts of fentanyl is automatically a trafficking charge. And you see that. And what happens also with the fentanyl issue is that when you have fentanyl that's laced in subjects, they still will prosecute you for the possession of fentanyl.
Correct.
And you might not even know as a person that what you purchased illegally has fentanyl and then all of a sudden you're being prosecuted for the fentanyl that's laced inside your cocaine or whatever else you're getting. Okay, so you're taking a big risk right now on doing that. But there are some very harsh laws. There's trafficking laws on fentanyl. I can't remember whether it's 3 years or 5. I think it's 3 years minimum mandatory for certain amounts of fentanyl. Okay, so and it gets even higher, more and more years. Okay, I probably shouldn't say this, but I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to vent a little bit. I think the way that we do our drug laws in the state, actually in the United States, is kind of crazy. Okay, and what I mean by that is, if you're going to make something illegal, then by God, make it so illegal and so the law is so tough that everybody's going to be afraid to do it. Okay? Mm-hmm. But what we do right now is we make it just tough enough where people can go out and make a profit off of it. Okay? Because it's just risky enough. Okay? And then what happens is people go out and they do it because it's just risky enough. And then at the exact same time, who else is making a profit off the drug laws right now? Law enforcement. Okay? And then not just law enforcement, the state attorney's office and the judiciary and all these state agencies. Yeah. The government makes a fortune off the drug laws the way they're designed right now. Now, I'm not telling you that I'm in favor of making everything legal, but if you're going to make it illegal, make it so illegal that no one's going to dare do it, or come up with some other ways to deal with the drug issues. We have a big problem with drugs today. I'm not saying that we don't have a problem with it, but I don't know. We need to have a conversation about how we're doing drug laws, because the drug laws, in my opinion, are kind of crazy right now.
Yeah, to me, Dan, I think they're very lenient. In a lot of ways, they're very lenient. Like you said, what you were saying about just risky enough. You know what I mean, to do it, because the penalty is not going to be so harsh. They know they may get a slap on the hand, maybe just probate, whatever it may be, and then like you said, they just profited hundreds of thousands of dollars on that particular deal or whatever, and then they come back out. And then they try it again. They're going to, you know what I mean? Because they know the next time, still it's not going to be as harsh. Well, somewhere or another, we've got to find a fine line where we got to just put the hammer down on somebody and just go, hey, man, if you do this, this is what you're getting minimum. And it needs to be a harsh minimum.
But you also got to recognize that the government makes a fortune off the drug laws.
Of course they do, yeah.
Well, it sounds like you make it illegal
Yeah, right.
just enough to where you're out, you go out, do it again, get busted, have to pay, and then you're out, and then you do it again, get busted, and have to pay. It's just a reoccurring event.
Well, it's a vicious cycle.
And who's making the money?
The government.
The government. The government's making
I watch it all the time, and you see it all the time in the court system.
Yeah.
You really, truly do.
Yeah.
And so there's a real problem with our drug laws, and I'm not telling you just make everything legal. But we need to have a little bit more intelligent design to the drug laws.
Barnes says it's a 10th Amendment issue.
States' rights.
Yeah.
I know the Constitution.
Yeah, so he just put it on the comments, so I just want to let so absolutely right. All right, let's go to Amendment 5. By the way, it's 7:46 Eastern Time. On the spot with David Rodgers. Great conversation we got going right now. I love this because I'm gonna be honest with you. Even on some of these amendments, as much as I read them and as much as I think I know about them, there's a lot of stuff that he's breaking down that I didn't know about him. You know what I mean? Certain in-depth stuff, and that's what he was trying to say. That's why we were doing this show, is so people out there understand what they are voting for. And like you said, I like what you said about if you don't understand it, then just vote no. I mean, you know what I mean? Because you could be voting yes on something that may be, whoa, especially if you don't understand it. But like you said, there's a lot of places to go for understanding.
So far, Dan, thank you. It's helped me to understand
Absolutely.
what direction I want to go. Of course, 1 and 2, you might have to just briefly throw that out just a little bit more. I didn't follow one yet.
Well, I can go back over this if you want.
Yeah, let's move on, David, and then we'll go back whatever
I'm
you
happy
didn't
to go back over
understand.
this,
Because I've got a lot more stuff I want to get to as well. So Amendment 5, here we go. Creates an annual inflation adjustment on the amount that is tax exempt from a homeowner's primary residence homestead exemption, reducing revenue for local communities by an estimated $111 million annually by 2029 for services like public safety workers, parks, and sanitation collection, etc.
Okay, so what are we talking about here? What are the exemptions that we talk about here? Disabled veterans.
Right.
And
Yes.
so what happens is that that they're saying that that there should be the exemption rate should be tied to the inflation rate. So the exemptions track along with what's happening in our economy. I think it's a great idea. Okay, is it going to reduce something to the local governments? Yeah, probably. But the thing about it is that when you have disabled veterans, in my opinion, I think there's some other bases for the exemptions. I can't remember all of them right now, but being the fact that I'm a veteran and
I'm a veteran, he's a veteran, yeah, absolutely.
That's a near and dear subject.
There's a lot of us out there.
Right. And the thing about it is that we need to do this because I think we owe this to our veterans, and I think that hitching this to the inflation helps people that don't have the money, and there's a reason why they have an exemption. They have an exemption because they're disabled in one fashion or the other. And so I of all the amendments that's out there, this one to me is an absolute no-brainer. No-brainer. I'm voting yes. Because I think it needs to be tied to it. Because I think we owe that to these people.
always talk about people. We always talk about who we cater to on this show, and the things that we try to do to help out our viewers and everybody that tunes into this show, and even that doesn't tune into this show when we reach out to the community. Two certain sets of people, I think, get shafted by the government and by most people. They say they care, but they don't. One is the one he just said, disabled veterans, or even veterans to begin with. And two is the elderly.
Oh, yeah.
The elderly. You hear it each and every day. These elderly people that are on fixed incomes, man, they want to tax them more and tax them more. How much more are you going to tax when somebody's only getting $1,000 a month to live and ain't got no other support coming in from anywhere? That, Dan, I'm telling you, brother, irks the mess out of me, him, Byron, and everybody else. Those two sets of people, and I can name others, but those two particularly, because the elderly has already done their time.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. No
They've done their time. They're, I'm not saying they're expecting help, but man, when they need help, man, they should be able to reach out and get it. And then, like you said, anybody that has served or served our country definitely needs to be on that list as well. And that's just one thing that aggravates the mess out of me.
It isn't this that you serve the country. It's that you have a certain degree of disability from your service. Okay.
Yeah.
And the thing about it is, I went to Afghanistan, and I don't know of anybody that went to a combat zone that doesn't have some kind of scar. I don't know anybody that's going to. Everybody that I know went has some kind of scar.
And I know you were talking particularly with disabled veterans, but I'm just talking veterans in general.
Oh, I got that too.
Yeah.
And listen, I try to take care of veterans all the time with what I do.
Yeah.
But yeah, I got it. I understand. But on this particular issue about the home,
It's mainly for this.
it ties it to inflation. It automatically provides help, and I'm in favor.
Okay. Let's see here. We got a couple of things here. I'm just throwing this out. No, you just did that. Would be interested in seeing the percentage of increase of fentanyl from illegals.
Oh, you're talking about coming across the border?
Coming across the border.
Well, we don't know because
we don't know. Yeah, we don't know.
It's like what's coming across the border? Do we know?
No, maybe. Hey, our vice presidential candidates can give us that on the debate tonight. I particularly doubt it. All right.
I doubt it.
Kelly, more Roland's watching. Thank you, Kelly. Thank you for the message, by the way. I appreciate it. I hope I answered your question okay. Thank you for your support of our veterans. Talking to you, Dan. Absolutely. The man's a veteran himself. Elderly people are not protected enough, Kelly Moore Roland says.
I think she's right.
Yeah,
I think she's
that's
right.
what we're talking about. So, there should be no need for homestead exemptions because there should never be taxes on people's property. That's what Byron's saying.
Well, I got that, Byron, but the reality of it is we got to pay for roads, we got to pay for, we got to pay for the police, we got to pay for firefighters.
Yeah.
There are certain things we got to pay for, okay?
And for rebuilding infrastructure after a hurricane.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the thing about it, we got to be there for the people whose houses have been wiped out, because one of the things going to happen is that you're going to suddenly see all these insurance companies heading for the hills, like they've taken all these buildings, and they're not going to want to pay out on any of it. Because that's one thing about Florida. You watch that happen all the time.
You're exactly right. All right, going on to Amendment 6. Here we go. Gives more political power to corporations and wealthy individuals and candidates by repealing the public financing option available for state candidate campaigns passed by voters in the year 1998.
I will be polite, and I won't say the words. I'll simply say BS. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Let's flip that question. Okay. Let's flip it.
Yeah.
Okay?
Let's flip it.
So, is it the responsibility of the state of Florida to pay for campaign financing for people running for office? Should your tax dollars, go to support somebody that you don't agree with running for political office?
No.
No, I don't think so either. And what this does is it sets up a mechanism for the state to provide funding for people running for statewide offices. You know what? If you're running for statewide offices, you better have the financial wherewithal to do it in the first place. Yeah, okay, so you're going to have certain levels of contribution from corporations and whatnot. But at the same time, if you're going to go out there and you're going to campaign, you got to get financial support. Having the state of Florida pay for your campaign just irks me. I can't agree with that.
Well, the state, you say, is paying for it. but the people is the one that's supplying the money.
You, okay, you,
yeah,
me,
you.
okay?
Yeah, me, us, yes.
And so, do you want your money to go support somebody else's political campaign that you don't agree with?
No.
That's really what this boils down to. Okay, if you want to support a candidate, support the candidate.
Whether I can support or don't support, I'd like to have the choice to decide where my money goes.
Absolutely, I agree
Yeah.
with you. I agree with you. And that's the thing about this is that it really boils down to. I hate to frame it this way. I don't mean to be,
No, just say it as you
simple.
say.
Well, if you're very liberal, then you want the government to.
Yeah, of course you
finance
do.
your candidate,
Yes, no doubt.
If you're very conservative, you expect a candidate for office to fund their own campaign and to come up with their own money for office.
Yep. That's exactly right, and I agree with that. So, you're voting?
I'm voting no.
That's exactly right. So,
No. I'm voting yes on that one.
Yes,
I'm, I'm voting to repeal it.
Repeal it,
I
yes.
said that wrong.
Yeah,
So when
yeah.
I say I'm voting yes on that, I want that repealed.
All right. So Dave wanted you to go back. By the way, we went over all
Just
6 of these
briefly.
amendments, and if you missed this show, you can talk to Dan on his email, dan.sykes30@gmail.com. Did I get it right, Dan?
That's right.
Dan.sykes30@gmail.com. You can send him a question or whatever. You can rewatch this show. I think we're going to bring Dan back on before the election, of course, and we'll go over some of these other things as well. I hope you want to come back.
No, I've enjoyed it.
Yeah, I've enjoyed
I'm
this
probably
too.
going to
and-
get complaints on Facebook for some of the language I've used.
Well,
Hey,
no, hey, you ought to hear what I've used. I think you've probably seen a couple of the
We're
shows.
after hours.
We're after hours, yeah. We're after Facebook hours, by the way, yeah. So, but anyway, let's go back to, you said, David, Amendment 1 and 2, right?
Yeah, just want
Just, okay. So let me reread Amendment 1. Brings politics into local school board elections by making them partisan. Nullifies part of a 1998 amendment passed by 64% of Florida voters that ensures school board races are nonpartisan. You just witnessed Mitchell Gunner in one of those. Creates closed party primaries that take away the ability for millions of Floridians to vote in school board elections.
And so the issue of it is, okay, if you vote in favor of this, it lets you know when a candidate's running for office what party they're with, okay? And it sets up a primary process to where the Democrat and the Republicans can solidify their issues and go through the primary process and then be voted for the ultimate campaign. And so it makes people define who they are and what they stand for in their political preferences. And if you don't want to be to sell who you are. If you don't want to be running as a Republican or a Democrat, fine. You can still run as an independent, and then you're in the general election at the same time anyhow. So you got to do all the things you got to do to get your name on the ballot. But the point about it is that I personally think that it provides clarity as to who you're voting for and why you're voting for.
Yeah, and I agree.
with
And
that.
you remember at the first of the show when me and Dan was starting to talk about this, I had said about that particular race, and he meant it was Mitchell Gunner, Dana Bell, and what's her name? Gosh, Lynn, she's gone off my mind. Anyway, the girl that's sitting at the Miss Craig, if Mitchell could have ran as what he is registered at and is part of the Republican as a Republican, I don't know what the other two would have ran under, but either way, if all three of them ran as Republicans.
Then you would have the same process
process
as
as
primary.
primary.
But what
Right.
happens when you do that way? Okay, let's say they all three ran as Republicans. Okay?
Right.
Then what would have to happen is one of them would have to get at least 50%.
Percent,
Otherwise,
correct.
and then there'd be a runoff from that. Okay. So you basically, it isn't simply you get the majority and you walk on. It takes more than that.
Yeah, and that's exactly right, and that's what happened in that particular race. She got 51%, Dan, I think 51 or 52% of the vote over both the other candidates. So, because it was nonpartisan, as Dan just talked about, she retained the seat. So there's no
I
runoff.
like the fact that there's clarity in one part of it, but I also like kind of the fact that Mitchell could have ran
As a Republican,
as he wanted to.
which he's a registered Republican, everybody knows that, and he could have ran as a Republican.
Okay.
Yeah, and then he could have, like he said, it defines the views and the issues of that particular person and what he stands for with his party.
And if you want to run
Run as an independent.
run as an independent, you can.
Yeah.
And the other thing about it is that you see people, and I saw this in Clay County, where people would be, they're registered as one person, and that's not who they are.
Right.
And
That's
so,
the thing.
they're not. That's not who they are. And so you can look up the party affiliation, even though they're running as nonpartisan seat. You can find, oh yeah, this person is such and such. They're going to be fine because that's what their party affiliation is. No, because they say that for the optics, but they're running on a nonpartisan race, so you never get them to clearly define where they actually stand.
Sounds like a lie to me.
It is a
So
lie.
4 years ago, if you remember, and I don't know if Dan, do you remember, and I can't think of his name, you remember the candidate that wanted to come on board that was from Gainesville, came down from New York, and said he was going to do this, and this, and as we started investigating, it wasn't who he said he was, and
He was one of those
he was
folks
one
that
of
you
those
just-
folks that you just talked about.
Yeah.
But me, Byron, Dave, Mitchell, we did our diligent
Yeah.
research and I'm like, no. That's who you're not saying who you are. We exactly know who you are. And it wasn't what he said he was going to be and what he said he was going to talk about on the show. So we just nipped it right in the bud.
And he eventually dropped out of the race.
Eventually dropped out of the race. So, sometimes you got to expose some
I'm not
Not
saying
sometimes.
that's because
Yeah,
Every time.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's exactly right. All right. So Amendment 2, Dave. You got anything more on Amendment 1?
No,
Okay.
I'm clear.
All right, so Amendment 2, Dave, what me and you like to do, establish a state constitutional right to hunt and fish, even though that the right already exists in state law. Proclaims hunting and fishing the preferred means of responsibly managing and controlling fish and wildlife, potentially overriding existing wildlife protections.
Now, that doesn't mean if you vote yes for it, and I'm going to vote yes for this, okay?
Yeah.
But if you vote yes for this, okay, it doesn't mean you don't need to have a fishing license. Now, you don't, I don't, because we're over
I do.
65.
Right.
You do.
I do,
okay?
yeah.
Well, you got.
I got a couple more.
Do you have your veteran card? Because you can get
Yeah,
this kind of regular.
this kind of rates, yes.
But the thing about it is that it doesn't mean that, because if you read the actual constitutional amendment, it still defers to Article 4 of the Florida Constitution that gives the Fish and Wildlife the ability to regulate it and have licenses. Okay.
Yeah.
But what it means and why it's important is there are a lot of movements in other states that basically are trying to outlaw hunting and carve it further down and use scientific methods for wildlife management. And there may be some good scientific methods to do it, but if you look out historically and you look at where I talked about this earlier, where they've outlawed hunting, you've seen overpopulations of deer in different locations.
Sure.
And what happens? These poor things, they start to starve. Now, listen, I'm not. I don't want to say this in a way that makes it sound like I'm touchy-feely liberal. I don't want to do that. But at the same time, I'll tell you, I don't believe in just killing an animal just to kill an animal. Okay. It needs to be done responsibly. If you're going to eat it, okay,
Sure.
then I'm good with it, okay.
Right.
That kind of hunting and fishing is perfectly fine with me. And I'm not going to talk about game trophies. If remember Terry Brown had the lion. and
Yeah,
stuff?
lion,
And
yeah,
that
right,
huge-
yes,
yeah, okay, whatever. But what there are people out there that want to outlaw it, and they want to use the legislative process to make it illegal. This puts it in the Florida Constitution, and it makes it a little bit more difficult to outlaw it. They'll have to have another constitutional amendment.
When you put it in a position to where you can't hunt and the population gets so big, like you were saying, that they're starving, that's absolutely
Well, that's cruelty in a way too, right?
cruelty in a way as
Oh,
well.
it's
Yeah.
absolutely cruelty to the animal.
Yeah, you're right. So,
And I would think the hunters would understand that.
Well, most of the hunters and fishermen that I know, in many ways, they're conservationists. Okay.
Right.
Yeah,
Yes.
I remember. I remember as a kid, I used to go offshore fishing all the time in Jacksonville, and it used to be back in the time where people would pop the top off a beer can and throw it over,
Throw it
overboard.
over,
And then fish would see this thing spinning out the bottom, and the fish would eat it, and it would kill the fish. And once fishermen figured that out, the fishing community put that out there,
But-
and you could always spot a true fisherman. They'd pop that top and then put the top inside the can, so
Yep.
it wouldn't go out. And so that was grown and spread
Didn't
by
they police that themselves? Didn't the fishermen? They police that
They
themselves.
pushed it themselves.
Yeah,
And then they
yeah.
pushed, and then the Coke people, ultimately they took it, they changed it so that.
Yeah,
the
so,
different
yeah,
company
like this
had-
tab right here,
I'm
yeah.
sure that it's probably a small number, but there are hunters out there that would brag about killing 6 or 7 deer and filling up their 3 coolers.
I guarantee it's gonna be out there. But the bottom line of it is that do I like them doing that? No, I don't like them doing that. But at the same time, I think that it should be a right. I think that it should be something that we got to be careful about restricting it. You know, almost every hunter I know, in one fashion or another, is into some form of conservation. They try to be responsible and reasonable with what they do.
Right.
Because
That's right.
because if they overdo it, they're not going to have any game to hunt next year.
The way this country's going and this world is going, you better have a full freezer.
me,
after
hey,
the port's closed.
me and this man here, and you have too. Hey, there's such thing as MREs. I love them, man. I'll eat the mess out of them. You like MREs?
Let me tell you.
Yeah, go ahead. Since we brought that up.
Quick war story. In the old days, I was an aviator over in Germany during the early '80s, and we would do out these exercises, and it'd be snow on the ground. And one of my favorite things to do is I would take my sea rations and I would open up the can. And I love the green eggs and ham. Okay, and it grows so.
Did you?
Good. Oh God, I love the green eggs and ham. And what I would
have
do,
my portion.
what I would do,
You give me the chili.
The pilot briefs, just to be the person that I am.
Yeah.
I would pop the top off it, and I would take my survival knife, and I would drive it down the can, and then I'd open up the other, and I'd shove it through, and I'd walk into the pilot brief, licking my green eggs, and do the. And people were like, "What are you doing?" I said, I'm having breakfast. And it was just, that was. But I just, I loved it. This stuff, I really did, and I could eat that stuff all day long. MREs are fine, but I miss the sea rations.
You miss the sea rations. You
I
like them.
I like the sea rations. I did. I really did.
Really?
I mean, it's some good food.
Did you?
I had no problem eating the food they served me.
Now, see, you guys are both Navy, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Now, see, the Army we had before they had the Kevlar helmets, which are great helmets. Okay,
Yeah,
trust me.
they're good,
You want to be
yeah.
shot at. You want to wear the.
You want to wear the Kevlar? Yeah.
But okay, the old steel pot, boy, you could cook in the steel pot.
Yes,
you
you could.
bathe in the steel pot. You could do other things in the steel pot. Okay, the steel pots were very, very convenient. I love the steel pots, and I cook. I can't count the number of meals I cooked in the steel pot. So
You could sit on them.
I could.
So,
I did.
So before I let you go, first and foremost, I want to thank Dan, ladies and gentlemen, for coming in and talking about these amendments. First and foremost, I want to ask you, will you come back again, maybe in a couple of weeks, and let's do this?
If you ever want to talk about anything about the law, I'm happy to.
And there is a couple of things I do want you to come back and do as well. But I want you to come back in a couple of weeks and let's refresh these people's memories about this and re-go over this. And I know they'll be able to watch it on the Facebook page and the Facebook Live. By the way, Dan, you got YouTube, right? You'll be able to watch this show on YouTube as well.
I've already subscribed.
You've already subscribed. He's already subscribed. So,
All right.
all right. So, and that'll be downloaded by Austin Stevens by tomorrow night. But before you go, I want to get your opinion on what you're going to see on the vice presidential debate tonight at 9:00. What do you think is going to? Yes. So, okay. Here we go. I knew I'd get him here.
Okay, so of course you know who I'm siding with.
Absolutely. Same side I'm on.
Okay, I will tell you fundamentally, they're going to try to say that J.D. Vance was a reporter as opposed to a combat veteran when he was in Iraq. Okay, well that wasn't the problem when Al Gore was a reporter in Vietnam. Okay. Al Gore was a reporter in Vietnam. I don't think I never heard anybody diss his service in Vietnam for being a reporter.
Never have.
And I will tell you one of the things about having been downrange, having been in a combat zone. I will tell you, and I wasn't a guy out front with a rifle, snooping and gurking and gleeking around the bushes and whatnot. But the modern warfare is a different thing than it used to be in Vietnam. Because what happens is they would shoot rockets into the bases, okay? They would shoot mortars into the bases. So the people that used to be relatively, you would consider safe, they're not safe. And in Vietnam they really weren't, because you had like the Tet Offensive, and they attacked these towns where people were allegedly safely ensconced, okay?
Right.
And they weren't. So if they try to diminish J.D. Vance because he was a reporter. He was a Marine, okay? Everybody as a Marine is an infantryman first, okay? Now, I wasn't a Marine, but I was a paratrooper. I was in Special Forces, and so I'll stand toe-to-toe with any Marine I know, and I respect them, okay?
Absolutely.
But at the same time, I'll also defend the Marines. Don't tell me that a Marine was just this or just that, because all Marines are infantrymen. Okay,
Right.
and he was an infantryman. That's the thing. And he's a self-made man. He went to Ohio State. He on the GI Bill, not the old one, but the GI Bill. And then he had the grades that got himself into Yale. That means this guy's got some skill and some ability. So I think he is going to mop the floor with Tim Walz. Tim Walz, okay, again, I'm probably going to offend somebody, but Tim Walz, I have the stolen valor problem with him. I really do. He had, he did not complete his training as a sergeant major, so he didn't retire as command sergeant major. I read his campaign bio from Minnesota, where he said he retired as a sergeant major. He did not, because he didn't complete his training. The other thing is that his unit was on alert to go down range, and then he decided not to go. Well, when you're a sergeant major, a command sergeant major, okay. Being a sergeant major is a big deal, okay? And being a command sergeant major is an even bigger deal, okay? And so he's got all these guys that are looking to, and he stepped down and walked away from it.
You got to be the first in line.
You got to be taking care of your guys, okay?
Right.
And you got to be there for your guys. And I think that for the soldiers that watched him walk away, that had got to be that would be just a devastating impact to morale.
So I want to go back and preface something that you said about J.D. Vance and about being a Marine. Y'all got to remember, in any armed forces, there's different jobs. What you call MOS. Right?
Military
we call it rate. We call it a rate,
okay,
or whatever. That's our job. But MOS, a particular rate. Either way, it doesn't matter if he was a journalist, if he was a paper pusher, if he was infantry, if he was a sniper, whatever the heck, he still had to go through basic Marine boot camp.
Yep.
And he had to do everything that it took to qualify as a Marine.
Yep.
And if you want to try to diminish that because he was a reporter, well, I'm telling you, if he had to go into combat when he was on reporting duties, he is skilled and qualified to pick up that weapon and fire it at the enemy. I assure you of that. So don't give me this crap, and I know who's saying it, Dan. Don't give me this crap. Oh, he's a reporter. He really don't do that. Either way, he's still a Marine, and he was a Marine reporter. And that's all I'm going to say about that. I'm not going to argue with anybody about that because there's stupidity out there, and you can argue stupidity all day long.
To be fair, they both had to put their hand on the Bible.
But that's what's so damn offensive, okay?
Right.
The thing about it is that had Tim Walz simply said his career straight up without embellishing it, I would honor that, sir. I honor anybody that's raised their right. I don't care whether you're mopping floors.
Yep.
I don't care if if you're in the military, you take that risk. And I honor anybody's military service. But I do not honor when you take that service and diminish it by claiming to be someone that you are not.
Yes.
Okay. Because there is pride and honor in having served. You don't need to add to it. Okay. You don't need to add to it.
So I want to say something, and Shirley, I was going to say this before you wrote it. I know a command sergeant major, if he was around today, that would call him a big fat liar.
Yeah.
That's Command Sergeant Donnie Bagwell would call him a big fat liar. I can assure you that. Shirley wrote that. I had to take it, but I was going to say that.
Shirley probably is saying, Dan, you sound like my husband.
Yeah, probably is. Byron Bagwell says, yes, he is a liar, and I have extreme issues with him. I know what it took my father to earn that CSM rank.
That is,
and that's
let me tell you what, a lot of people don't realize, okay, the statistics of being a second lieutenant and becoming a general officer is, you got a great statistical probability of doing that as compared to somebody in base training as an E1 making it all the way to the CSM. That is difficult to do. That is not an easy thing to do. And making it a master sergeant is still a heck of an accomplishment.
Yes.
Okay, you don't need to diminish it by claiming something beyond that. And if you're a CSM, more power to you. But don't claim to be something that you're not.
No, and that's exactly
I can
right.
only hear my father right now.
Yeah, your dad too is, by the way. Again, Dan, I want to thank you for coming in. Right now, I've got 8:15, half past the hour, Eastern time, 8:15. I want to thank Dan for coming in and going over these amendments with us and talking about some other things. We're going to have him back on the show. And then when we get into some other issues, some other things, I'm going to have him come back and give his opinion as well. I know you're a busy man, and really appreciate what you do and what
Thank you, friend.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. You'll be able to go back and watch this show on Facebook and then YouTube tomorrow night as Austin Stephen gets ready to download it. But I want to thank you, Dan, for coming in and sticking with us, brother.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
God bless
you.
you guys. God bless everybody.
Hey, and I love the shirt, by the way. Go Nose. I don't care what they're doing. Go Nose. All right.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
Dave, that was Dan Sykes, man. I tell you, did a really good job of breaking down those amendments and everything, and just going over those and telling you how he was going to vote. He's not telling you to vote that way. He's just saying that's his opinion. That's the way he's going to vote. And we'll have him back here in a couple of weeks, David, to keep everybody's mind refreshed and make sure that everybody has these amendments right on time. And if you don't want to wait till then you can go back and watch the replay of this show, Facebook Live, on the spot with David Rodgers right after this. It won't be live, but it'll be on Facebook for you to go back and watch, because Kelly Rowland said, dadgummit, I missed the deal on Amendment 3.
It's called the replay crew.
So,
Call it the replay crew.
yeah, the replay group. Anyway, thank you, Austin, for breaking my thoughts. But anyway, yeah, vote for Amendment 3. Yes, you can go back and watch the replay on Facebook, and then Austin will be able to download it on YouTube, and that'll be up tomorrow night if everything goes all properly and everything. Should be up tomorrow night by 7.
I suggest if you missed it, watch it, because it is nothing but full of clarity.
Yes.
It has really helped me to
Helped me.
understand where I want to go.
It's helped me, and I'm sure it's helped a lot of people. Even Shirley said, thank you, Dan, for breaking that down, because I'm sure there was some things in there. Yes, it sounds like simple wording, but you know what he did? He broke it down, David, into layman's terms.
Yes.
For people that don't understand all those big fancy words, or they're trying to mumble jumble something. You know, most amendments, they put 2 or 3 things in it, Dave, and then you know what they do? They're trying to get us all combobbled, because they're trying to get one part of that amendment in there for you to say yes on. You know what I'm saying? But he did break that down, and he broke all of them down. I thought he did a very good job. And again, we'll have him on in a couple of weeks. We'll do it again. But I suggest, like Austin said, and you said, to rewatch the show, because he did do a good job. Dave, can we do this? Can we take a quick commercial break? And then I want to bring Austin Stevens in with me, because I really, Dave, I hope he has a lot of information, because I really want to get into what happened with this storm. I want to get his take on what's coming up in the tropics, and I want to get his assessment on the damage that was done during this storm to all these different places and all these different areas. And then I want to comment about that after he gives that. So Austin Stevens will be with me right here after we take these commercial breaks. We'll be right back on the Spot with David Rodgers.
Hey Tornado fans, this is Kurt Miracle of Miracle Automotive and Towing, proud sponsors of Tornado Football. I want to welcome you to beautiful Stark, Florida at David Hurst Stadium, and thank you for letting us be a part of this community. We're here for more than your automotive and towing needs. We're here to be part of Tornado Country. Go Big Red!
Oh boy, that's one. Here we are back on the spot with David Rodgers. Look who I've got sitting beside me here. He is the man with the plan, Mr. Austin Stevens. First and foremost, ladies and gentlemen, I want to say something about this young man. First, he's not only part of our crew, he's part of our family, part of what we do each and every day and each and every week. And he does a great job, David, not only making sure that everything is all right with the Facebook and the Facebook replay, but he is our YouTube guy. hey, once this show is done, he's already back home working on how he's going to get this thing downloaded and to make sure that it's on YouTube for all you guys that don't have social media as far as i.e. Facebook or anything like that, that you'll be able to watch it tomorrow night right around 7 or 7:30, just depending on his timing, and if anything goes wrong, that show will be on YouTube. So first and foremost, I want to say that. Second is, I don't know anybody besides the people that get paid big bucks for this, that works as hard as this young man does on the weather, especially when we have a severe hurricane or severity of any kind of weather. This young man, I don't want to call him a kid, he's a young man now. This young man provides the information that you need to be able to keep yourself safe, your family safe, and to give you a broad prospect, a sense of what's coming up. And he's always on his computer. He's always looking at models. He's always looking at information. He's looking at data. And he's always telling me some things. I know that I'm a busy man, and he tries not to inundate me, but he tells me what's going on as well in a short paragraph each and every time that we have one of these. And sometimes I disagree with him. Sometimes I agree with him.
We were arguing
This time,
about the hurricane last
we was arguing about this hurricane, and I've got to say, ladies and gentlemen, I'll tell you when I'm wrong. I was wrong. I was wrong. I was wrong about this. I didn't think it would be a Cat 4. I thought it may be a strong 2, maybe a small 3, which is still very impactful. And I said, Austin, it's going to wobble to the west, and it's going to go more toward Panama City and that area. Well, it was heading that way. Well, it was heading that way first, and then it wobbled a little bit. And I also said, David, it's going to wobble back. Boy, you were right, man.
Well,
Yeah, you were. Let me ask you this. Now, you never told me, and you'll tell me the truth. Did you say that the eye was going to go over Perry?
Yeah.
You did.
I said Perry. I said Steinhatchee because I called a few friends of mine, my tenants. They have a beach house over in Steinhatchee.
Right.
And I want to say, I wish I had the money to help Steinhatchee Cedar Key. I've been over there. It's a beautiful place.
Yes, it is.
People will rebuild. Cedar Key was basically almost leveled. Steinhatchee was leveled. It was a 60-mile wide tornado at last minute. I want to say something right out before I ramble. Whoever is calling this storm that it was a HARP event, all the conspiracy theories that are out there that they were, seeding the storm to intensify it, using it as a weapon or anything like that. These conspiracy theories, they need to be locked up in Gordon's jail cell, because it doesn't matter if it was or wasn't. It's not that. This is not the time to argue or debate about that. It's the fact that people have lost their homes on the Gulf Coast, and then on top of that, the storm reached all the way into the Appalachian Mountains and wiped out communities. Not even towns. A city is now completely surrounded by water, and I-40 is washed out. You know I-40. I know you do.
Oh, yeah.
I-81, the Beltway, I-81 that wraps around the mountains, and then 77.
Exactly. And we've all been through that country. It's a beautiful country, by the way. I do want to ask you about something that you just said right there. And you were talking about the conspiracy theory about hyping this up and hyping this storm up and, making it more intense. Let me ask this, and you're going to educate me here. Now, I don't know how you can do that, and I'll let you answer it here in a minute. But isn't that Mother Nature? Let me ask something. Isn't that Mother Nature? Don't Mother Nature control what she does? It's imminent that this was going to hit something and somewhere. You said it many times. So this conspiracy theory about hyping this storm up, I don't know how you can hype a storm up, Austin, from a physical standpoint or from a human standpoint. You educate me if you can do that.
Okay, so let's take Las Vegas, Nevada. It barely rains, right?
Yep.
It rains very little because the mountains on the west side of the valley will stop the rain from the Pacific West Coast.
Right.
Well, there's such thing as cloud seeding. It uses silver iodox chemicals. They spray it up into the sky, and it'll clean to make more water vapor, make more cloud cover, which then will make it rain.
This is a real deal. This is a real thing.
Fox, I believe it was not MSNBC, but there's a few articles out there. You can look it up on YouTube.
Have you heard of this?
Yes.
No, I'm asking Dave.
Dave?
Have you heard of this?
I've heard something.
Yeah, but I've never known that that could really happen. But anyway, I'm sorry, Austin. Go ahead and finish.
They have been doing this for a while, but it's to help with the mountain part to bring snow and precipitation so the Vegas Valley can get its water stuff. But the reason why people are dwelling on a conspiracy theory of this is because of the fact that there is a facility in New Orleans, of all places, that is designated to do research like this. Now, when we fly Hurricane Hunter aircrafts into these storms, I'm going to back the NHC up here. We do this to feed the computer models real-time data. Real-time. Because the more data we have, the more it is. I posted on Facebook Wednesday night, and I'm pretty sure you saw that post. The GFS and Icon model and the graph model, which is an internal model, which I was helping with, talking with Bradley at WCJB20 News, which is a meteorologist. We had actual meteorologist from WCJB20 News that I was chatting with. We were looking at it, and Bradley, he told me the graph model Tuesday night was coming straight over Gainesville and towards Stark, and I was like, oh my no, we're in trouble if that happens. But we were just looking at it, and then I said, okay, I'm gonna sleep on this. And this was Wednesday night after I texted you, and you said it was gonna go towards Panama City.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm gonna sleep on this. I said on Facebook, I really regret sleeping on it now, because I looked Thursday morning, the GFS and Icon models were pointing straight back at us still. And that's when I made the final decision. I told through a comment, I told Storm Chaser Logan Parham, he's local to the area. He even brought up the conspiracy theory stuff. He made a long post. If y'all search up Logan Parham on Facebook or X, whatever. Logan Parham said about the whole HARP and storm manipulation, all that it's not the time. But he stayed in Perry. And I told him, I said, you need to stay in Perry instead of going to Crawfordville. And I nailed it. Nailed it. Steinhatchee.
Yeah, you did. And Steinhatchee, I work with a lot of people over in Lake City. By the way, Columbia got just hammered. They were
Grafton had 90% power failure.
So did Columbia. Lake Butler did as well. Union County did as well.
Yep.
And let me tell you, there's still people right now over in Columbia County and in Suwannee County that still don't have no power. It may be weeks before they get it back because all these all these electrical poles snapped over.
David?
Yes, sir?
I'm going to be honest with you. This is going to be another thing, just like the hurricane.
Okay.
We went from 1.2 million people without power at 6 a.m. Friday morning. How many people do you think in the state of Florida have no power right now?
Oh, I know it's probably 92 or 93% restored.
No. Give a number out there. In the thousands.
In the thousands?
How many accounts do you think are still without power?
Tell us.
Tell us.
We're only at 47,000 now. We, in 6 days, squashed 1.2 million power outages.
And I don't disagree with you. I think I don't think you understood what I was trying to say. That there is still some people out there that don't have power in these particular counties because of the severity of the power poles that were just demolished. A boy showed me today a picture. He may not have power for weeks because there was 23 power poles that were just crushed. And I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying that I know that there's still people out there without power, and they're not going to get power back for a very long time. So just because of the amount of time it takes to put these power poles back up and get these people up and running.
So what's that saying, Austin, is they're really working hard and they're getting power turned on.
Absolutely.
But there's still a big percentage that's out of power because of the severity.
Well, the number that Austin said, what did you say, 1.2 million when it started?
We were at 1,220,000 people at 6 a.m. when they started working.
When they started working. Okay. As of right now.
47,000 even. We are closing in at 47,000 to wrap up tonight.
47,000. So let's bring that number up from 92.8 to about 97%, 98% now restored.
Yeah.
Excellent work by the linemen.
Excellent.
By the way, I want to, and Austin, I'll let you finish in a minute. I want to thank all those linemen. Not only from the state of Florida, Clay Electric, Florida Power, Suwannee, whatever you're on. I want to thank all those linemen, but the linemen that came down here from different states, Michigan, Ohio, all those big white trucks that was all stationed down there in Bushnell. They took a drone picture. You could see these things for miles.
Yep.
And they dispersed like they're supposed to and got these people's power restored back in a timely fashion. And Austin's going to get into this in a minute. Some of those communities that y'all was talking about in North Carolina, Tennessee area right there that is completely washed, we are thankful, man. And I pray.
Valdosta still has no power.
Right.
As of now, Valdosta, Georgia was completely wiped off the map. The infrastructure is out. It's cooked.
I didn't have that bad of a problem. My transformer tripped
Yeah.
Wednesday night.
Yeah.
They couldn't get to it for 4.5 days to re-trip it, which doesn't take but a few minutes to trip
Right.
like a circuit breaker tripping.
Right.
But it took 4.5 days for them to get it from where they're working to finally get to me.
And we're very thankful, man. I'm telling you right now, I pray each and every day that was all that happened to us. Okay, there was some things like Austin said, some structural damage, some trees down here and there.
I couldn't
but
believe when I
nothing.
went into Keystone Heights, straight across from Clay Electric and where the Hitchcocks is and all that, the row of trees that are there, there's straight up one power pole snapped straight in half.
And that's just one of the stories.
Yeah.
That's just one of the many stories that's going on all over the state of Georgia, as he just said. North Carolina, and I'll let you get into that here in a minute because I do want to say something about that as well. But tell us I know right now, correct me if I'm wrong on the number, and they're going to find way more than this. Is there 97 confirmed dead, or is there more than that now?
It's over 100.
It's over 100.
David,
Once the water recedes,
I'm going to go out on record here. It's going to be a Katrina 2.0.
I don't know a Katrina 2.0
And
because I'm going to tell you why I say that. Katrina come in here into the and I'm from that area. My mom and dad lost their home. 2.5 miles inland, there was 4.5 feet of water in my mom and dad's house.
So
2.5 miles inland.
So, do you know how far Perry is from the beach of Steinhatchee and all that?
Yeah, it's pretty much right there.
The water went over I-10.
Not 5 and 6 feet.
That's not what I was told by retimmers.
Nah, because the next day there was truck drivers on the road. If you're talking 5-6 feet of water, where's it going to recede to?
It rolled back. David, Steinhatchee, they deployed, retimmer and all them deployed.
You're still talking the coast.
Well, let me finish what I'm going to say.
Okay.
They deployed these gauges. They measure storm surge.
Right.
At midnight, at 11:30 at night. This is before the storm even came on land. You know where Cedar Key is? They already had 10-foot storm surge. First Avenue Street in Cedar Key. The buildings were going under. The buildings that were there since the late 1800s.
Yeah, because it was high tide.
Not only that.
High tide. What are you going to do with high tide? High tide is already water's up to your dadgum neck. And now, you see what I'm saying? I'm not saying you're wrong.
No, I know.
I'm just saying you're not agreeing with what I'm saying about this.
No, I know, but what I'm saying is they were telling me, because like Logan, Parham, and all of them were on that coastline. They were in Perry.
Right.
They were not expecting that storm surge on them flat lands. This is not including the hills of Tallahassee, like when you get past Perry
Right.
and all that.
Right.
This is the flat part of I-10.
Right.
Right in between Swanee and Tallahassee. That water came on, but that water also rolled back, which helped us in a good way when the tide went out. The way this storm came in and left, if this storm would have hung around,
Without a doubt, I agree
did
with
not
that.
move at 30 miles an hour. Say it slowed down to 50 miles an hour or less. When we saw that the radar was looking like it was
Then totally
stalling over
different.
Valdosta when I was talking to you that night when you lost power,
Yep,
Friday morning,
Yep.
I was like, oh no, that thing just stalled. We're in trouble. But it didn't stall. It moved so quickly that the water was able to flow freely back out, which is what saved us. But what I'm talking about is like with the Katrina 2.0, is the cost of property damage in the mountains is going to be unfathomable.
Yeah, I'll agree with you there, and that's you. So you were talking cost, not so much severity.
Yeah, not
You're
so much
talking.
severity.
Yeah, okay, I got you. I'll agree with that, and I do want to talk about that a little bit because once that water goes to wherever it is going, and you can tell me now that water's got to go somewhere, right?
It's gonna
so
spread
is it going to spread out, and some of it's going to go into the Atlantic Ocean?
So it's going to spread out. It's going to hit eastern North Carolina, where they already have a potent water
Right.
water problem. And then there's water that's going to, and I'm going to warn everyone here. Y'all being around these rivers in Florida,
Yep.
they are going to expand as that
Yes.
water comes out of southern Georgia.
Yep.
And goes through, like Gordon will say, the watersheds. It's going to go through, and when it comes to, it's got to go to the Atlantic side or the Gulf of Mexico side. It's going to go somewhere.
Maybe all of them, right? Maybe all
Get
of them.
ready. Get ready, because not only that, we have a tropical disturbance coming this weekend. And I want to
Yep.
talk about that one real quick. We'll briefly touch on it. It's a wet, juicy mess, just like David likes it.
Wow. All right. Sound like my sandwiches. But anyway.
No, it's not. People are saying it's going to be a major hurricane. I'm going to go on record right now and say it's going to be maybe a tropical depression, maybe a tropical storm. If it changes, I will let you know.
There you
Believe me,
go.
I will. But no, this storm, Steinhatchee, Cedar Key, people are like, oh, they shouldn't have been there. They should have left. Well, some people are stubborn mules. They're not going to leave.
That's right.
They're not going to leave. They're fine. Like, I know there was one video on TikTok / Facebook and whatever that showed a woman in her house, in her canoe, David, her upstairs, water was creeping up to her upstairs. She's in a canoe. She's got a generator inside her house. That's a no-no.
So anybody that knows the Steinhatchee, Cedar Key, Horseshoe, any of that Big Bend
Keaton
area
Beach.
there, Keaton Beach, exactly right. Any of those areas there that are used to seeing some of these famous landmarks that you go to these certain towns and see, they're no longer there. I seen a picture of a drone that they flew over in Austin. If it's not in the ocean, did you see that picture where all those structures are in the woods?
Yep.
That it pushed them
Yep.
all into
Yep.
the woods there,
Yep.
and that's going to be a heck of a mess to clean
One
up.
of my
And
friends-
I want to know, you know, I hope people really think, and you hit on this with me. I hope people really think about when they go to rebuild this area back, that they take the precautionary measures, and there's nothing you can really do. I mean, if you put your house on stilts, hey, it doesn't
still gonna
matter.
fly away.
It's still going to fly away. It's still going to float away.
I want to say something.
Go ahead.
And this is gonna be controversial, but I asked a few people, and I'm tired of the politics mixing into this. In this debate,
Yeah, I don't know what politics has got to do with this anyway.
Tim Walz and them better leave this disaster out of their mouths and better not use it for political propaganda. Better not, or I'm gonna be mad. And I will be mad. I will say something, because when you have people building on the coast, and I know they're going to rebuild because they like the area.
Of course.
Give
It's
it.
a tourist attraction.
But here's what I'm going to say, and I want to bounce it off of you. Let Mother Nature have what she has back, because Taylor County's been hit 3 times in a year, 2 majors, and 1 Debbie. I know Debbie was a Debbie Downer, but still, at least it wasn't 3 majors.
Well, look, at the end of the day, this is Mother Nature. I don't, again, and you know this better than I do, I don't buy this conspiracy theory thing. This is a force of nature. You love the forces of nature because you don't like when it hits, but you like when you can get data and information and see what these things are doing. I don't know how much influence you can do with wind speeds and things like that. I'll agree with you possibly on the cloud thing. But I mean,
rain,
really,
yes.
really for us though, we didn't get a lot of rain here. We didn't
was
get a lot of. It's
weird.
more
It was
windy. It was.
weird.
We was like in a pocket that there wasn't a lot of rain circulation
It
with this.
confused, David. That confused me.
Oh, I'm sure it did.
extremely. Like I questioned it then.
Yep.
And that's where I get into the questioning part. When a hurricane comes through, a normal hurricane, like a normal one, and I'm not saying this one it wasn't normal whatsoever. Let's hypothetically talk. Why was it not raining before the storm, and why at 7:50 p.m. I'm pretty sure you went outside. Why did we get wind gusts up to 45 miles per hour and there was still no rain? It was hot.
Yeah.
It was
yeah.
a hot wind.
Yeah, it was.
It was like
Yeah.
it was like Mother Nature's dragon was breathing on Florida.
Yeah,
It sucked.
So I want to wrap up this storm thing here just a little bit. But anyway, first and foremost, Dave, help me out here. I want to, and Austin can too, I want to pray for each and every individual that went through this thing, that had lost loved ones, lost their all their possessions, their homes, everything in this storm. There's still damage. There's still remnants of this storm. And like he just said, we've got another one coming up our tail end as well.
It's just going to be rain.
Yeah, but still, we can't afford no more moisture either.
No.
And, North Carolina and Tennessee still trying to get rid of these flood waters. He's already said there's over 100 deaths. I have a feeling, Austin, I don't know. I'm going to go on record and say that they're going to find many, many more bodies after this water recedes. And if that number
that has water all surrounded in North Carolina. Oh, I'm trying.
Yeah,
to
you talking about Boone?
No, not Boone. No.
Cherry Hill?
No, not
Cherry-
Cherry Hill. What is it? Shoot. What's the one that they were all that they're bringing food and everything via?
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. But anyway,
It's on my tongue. But regardless, it has 100,000 residents, and it's not even in the mountains. A lot of people are picking on the people that live up in the mountains, saying that they're stubborn, they didn't move, they should have known that this was going to happen. Because there are some houses in the mountains, David. They built the house over rivers.
well, part of the problem was, and you're right, part of the problem was it was already moisturized there anyway. They was getting lots of rain anyway. And then this thing comes and dumps more rain. There's only so much water that a place can hold. And after that, then what you just say becomes a flood.
Yeah.
It's going to flood something. And water's got to go somewhere. And it just, man, it can't dissipate that fast. I mean, how much rain did they have before this storm even hit? Were they getting days upon days of rain there?
We had the storm, right?
Right.
And then you had an access drop. This
Right.
is why I questioned the storm, but I look at the maps too. Like you said, I analyze data. So
Well, yeah.
I have an answer to some degree on what happened. You had an access cold front trough because it's starting to become cold front season.
Right.
Well, that trough was sitting over the Appalachian Mountains in Tennessee, in northern Georgia, northern and northeast Georgia.
Yep.
Well, that access trough is pulling that moisture up, stream up. It's literally a river on the atmosphere pulling
Yep.
up, and you have hurricane at the bottom, you have trough up here, and then my finger is the tail pulling and sucking, pulling like a straw. Well, you're pulling that moisture up into the Appalachian Mountains, and as the northeast quadrant of that storm catches up with the trough, well, it's slapping the side of that mountain like a pressure washer.
Yep.
Here's all that water go downhill.
Downhill. Yep.
And that's
you're
why
right.
you ended up with 35 inches of water, which 35 inches is measured by a little rain gauge that you see on these like personal weather stations, like the Tempest Flow and all that.
Right.
They're measured in these little funnels. Well, that's that little thing. Imagine a football field catching that much water.
Yeah.
An inch of
Yeah.
rain is a lot of water on, say, the Bradford Tornadoes football field.
Yep.
That's a lot of water. It's got to
It
go
is.
somewhere.
It does. Yeah, no, you're right. So, well, we're just talking about this storm, and again, prayers and thoughts for everybody
Oh, of course.
that has lost something, and whether it's a home, whether it's any kind of property, a loved one mainly. Again, I think this number is going to be up into some big time numbers as far as the bodies they're going to find, because some people, like you said, Dawson, didn't take heed to this and they stayed. And again, that's their choice to do that, even though that the governments of those particular areas told them to get out. But that was their choice, and I just hope and pray that it's not as many as I think it's going to be.
If people want to donate, the best place that I actually will endorse and put my name behind is the y'allsquad.org, the y'allsquad.org, which is what Ryan Hall, he's in Eastern Kentucky.
Yeah.
He's ground zero, basically. I'm pretty sure you've heard of him already. But he's got the Y'all Squad. It's a 503 nonprofit, so you get a tax credit back on donating.
Right.
I would recommend doing that if you want to, because they just brought in 30 Starlink dishes. We are right now in the process down here, and I haven't announced it to David yet. David, I'm working on right now, if we ever get one again, me and you, we're gonna have some hub somehow. Gonna have to maybe ask Michael Heater for something here, but I'm looking into building and buying a Starlink dish and getting it ready, so I have a hub ready to go for the emergency, so we can actually be ground zero and not just be in the studio broadcasting. We're down there helping communities.
Yeah, and that's it. They need all the help they can get. As we're rolling up on 8:45 Eastern time, and anyway, it's been a great show. I want to thank Dan Sykes for coming on.
Absolutely.
I like what Dan said.
I did too. He went over all those amendments. Again, Austin will have it on YouTube for you tomorrow night. I want to thank Austin for being able to come in. I know he's been busy the last several weeks, but I'm glad he came in. We talked about the storm. But I want to say, David, one last thing about this storm. And that is, you hear about these horrible things, and you see all these horrible things and all these horrible events. I'm going to tell you one thing right now. I'm going to get on my soapbox a minute, okay, guys?
Oh.
Yeah, and this is not going to be very pretty for maybe, and maybe a lot of people agree with me. I know there's a lot of turmoil going on in the world today. You just heard about Iran sending a ballistic missile toward Israel. You've got the Ukraine-Russian thing going on. You have the Middle East thing going on. You have Hezbollah out there, and what's the other, Houthis out there attacking warships and things like that and challenging our military. You've got a lot of turmoil going on there. You've got these storms that have hit us, and hurricane season, as he'll tell you, is not over yet. So there's still more, hopefully not to come, but there's probably more to come.
There's one thing you left out, and I'm a little concerned about this one, the ports.
Oh yeah, I was going to get to that. I'm talking about the longshoremen.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
they did get a 50% promotional.
but they
offer.
decline it.
They declined it. They want 80%.
Yeah, they want 77 David percent. Right.
You make already six figures, and right now, because of the fact that this country, the whole southeast region, is in a gridlock because of this storm, you want to be a-holes and get on your knees and beg for 80% raise when 50% is enough. Take it, and let's open these ports. Let's do what we need to do and get this country rolling right now, because people's lives are depending on it. But instead, you want to, because you already make six figures, you want to be monetarily greed, just like the cackling woman that's in the White House and Biden both. You want to sit in there and be greedy. My pressure cooker is cooking. I'm not liking the way this country's going whatsoever. My dad said it before, and he said it again, and I'm going to say it through him. He told me before he passed away, never become a politician. But the more this country keeps going, I may have to run for office somewhere. I don't want to get into politics. It is the most disgusting thing you can get into. But it's got to stop, and I'm glad Ron DeSantis sent 750 temporary bridges. He sent a whole convoy up that interstate today to go into ground zero to help North Carolina.
Well, let me ask you a question. If you did run, do you have a campaign slogan?
You have to think about that.
I got to think about that one, because
Sleep on it.
Asleep on it. There you go. That's actually a good one, because unfortunately things happen
So
when I sleep on them.
I want to thank you for what you said, and I agree with everything that you said. And I know you get. I understand that you get a little, and I don't want to say, because you're usually a temperamental young man, and I know these things bother you, and it bothers me. And I want to say thank you for letting this kind of stuff bother you, because you are a young man, and I'm depending on you to make sure that my old tail and his old tail are okay down the line.
Of course.
And, you know, we need more young men and young women like you to think that way. But I want to finish off the show by saying one thing. I don't want to back up what he said about the longshoremen. David, first and foremost, I did my research on this, and I'm glad you didn't steal my thunder, bud.
Nah.
So
Hey,
I
just got your soapbox a little bit.
Yeah, you
fired
just
up.
got my soapbox a little fired up. These guys, David, are working 36 hours a week, 3 days a week. Their days rotate. As he said, they're making $120,000 a year already. David working 36 hours a week. Now you're wanting 77% pay raise on top of that. And here's my problem with this whole thing. And I'm going to cut the show off with this. My problem with the whole thing is that I don't care that they did it. I understand you want a pay raise. I don't particularly agree with it. It's what he said. It was the timing of the whole thing. Why are you doing this right now after a major hurricane just came through here? People needing supplies, people needing goods, and now you decided that you're going to strike? My problem with it is the timing of the whole mess.
David, what?
They're using that. They're using that as a. Oh, of course. They're using that to
As a tactic to get the money.
Tactic to get the message across.
That's exactly right.
We think they are.
Right, and that's exactly right. The next thing I want to say about this, so you better get your act together, because they are fixing to put this country in a very much of a bind, because there's goods and supplies that we get from other places that we need, and like he said, there's stuff that we need to get to these people in North Carolina and Tennessee, and even to our place. We need those goods, so you better come off your high horse, get back to work, and let's get this thing rolling.
Absolutely.
The second thing is I want to say is, if one stinking more dollar goes out this country before we help them people in North Carolina and Tennessee and everybody that's affected here, you think he's on a soapbox? I am going to be so damn mad that we'll do another show about that. One damn dollar goes out of here without helping those people. They want to send $10 billion to the Ukraine right now. No, send the $10 billion to North Carolina, to Tennessee, to everybody that's affected here. Let's get these people's lives back, and then we'll worry about the rest of it later. But one more damn dollar goes out of here without helping these people, I am going to be one mad son of a
I
bitch.
often wonder
Excuse
when I hear we send Ukraine $60 billion, what that could do for us.
Of course. And now that this thing has happened, as he said, and you said, and we've all said, we need to help these people out. Yeah. We need to get these people's lives back intact. Man, you think we got it here? Man, we are fortunate. And I hear everybody complaining about their power. I'm going to be honest with you. I was hot, and I did. But I had a generator running. But you know what? At the end of the day, and at the end of my thought, I'm like, them guys are working hard.
You had a house.
I had a house. I was able to eat. I was able to do this. Some people were still stuck on roofs. Oh, and by the way, look, one more thing.
When you're told to evacuate, please do so.
Yes, but if you didn't, I don't know why our government did not deploy our armed forces to help out in this situation before it got into dire straits. You know what I'm saying? We could have sent we've got the military right now here in the United States that's on active duty that would have been more than glad to supply our Navy helicopters, our Marine helicopters, our Air Forcemen. So I'm not just talking about Camp Blanding. I'm talking about the whole damn thing.
I know.
I'm talking about the whole thing. Why didn't we deploy anybody from the armed forces? Many people. We could have saved many more lives. But our government didn't do that. You know why? Because they didn't want to do that.
Well, not only that, David. They want your votes, and then when you...
Doesn't matter if they want my vote. You got to do the right thing.
But let me play devil's advocate. Hold on. Let me and you do this behind closed doors, and I want to show it on...
We'll do it behind closed doors. We'll do it behind closed doors. So anyway, thank you, Austin. I know you got an opinion. We'll do it behind closed doors. I love you.
I just want to say, I did 48 hours and never got paid. I'm not crying.
No, of course not. You do it because you love to do it.
Exactly, because I care about the community.
But our government has got to care about its people. And they've got to do the right thing, too. And by the way, to me, they didn't do the right dadgum thing.
No,
and that's, you know why? Because we have idiots in the White House that don't know their ass from a hole in the ground. How about that? You can take that Facebook, and if you want to find me, I'll pay it. I don't really care. So, David, do you agree with me?
I absolutely do agree with you. I think that our country should pay more attention to our needs
Yeah.
than foreign countries' needs. Right now,
Yeah, Byron, you're on here. Do you agree with me about one more daggum dollar goes out this country before we help those people that are in need here? Do you agree with me with that? We ought to be some PO'd off people right now. I'm telling you. Hey, we help everybody else, but we don't help our own.
That's
We
true.
talked about the disabled veterans. What are we doing for them? Like Dan said, what are we doing for our elderly people? Why ain't we filtering money to that community? Why ain't we filtering? And I get it. The homeless community is that's another subject that we could get into. That's because there's a mixture of illegal but why didn't we help our homeless? There's a lot of veterans that are homeless that are good people. There's a lot of disabled veterans that are homeless that are good people. There's a lot of good people that are homeless. Why ain't we putting our money into that kind of thing? Why aren't we helping our own people first? I don't mind helping somebody else as long as we're taken care of. You know what I mean? Aren't we? This is us first, isn't it, Dave?
I believe so, yes.
So
That's my feelings.
Let's let it trickle.
even Byron said that's it, and Lisa said it. Not a dime should leave this country. Byron said the same thing.
Yep.
No more money leaves out of here until those people are taken care of. This just irks me, man. I'm glad Byron's not here tonight because he'd have to be holding me back, and I'd have to hold him back. Because that is one thing, we talked about this at work today, and that's where I came, David, with this, and that's what I wanted to get on my soapbox about. We talked about this at work. All the boys at work said, hey, one more damn dime leaves out of this country without helping them people, boy, there's going to be some PO'd off boys at my work. And people that you know, people that Cheryl knows, people that... We've got to help our people, man. Sooner or later,
The community is mad at Washington, D.C. I'm just going to put that out there. The storm chasing community, Reed Timmer and all of them, they don't want to show it, but they are PO'd at this country, especially D.C. Now, I know...
Who ain't?
Yeah, and of course. Well, yeah,
Except the people that are backing the people that are in the White House right now. And again, that's another subject.
That's a whole nother
So,
thing.
yeah, there's just there is stupidity going on within our country. And
chaos.
November's vote is going to be so. We always talk about how every election, every vote is important. This particular election right here, ladies and gentlemen, is going to be very important because I'm telling you right now, the way that everything is going, like you were saying and we were saying about the conflicts that are going on overseas, the storms that are going on here, the way the economy's going, the way food prices are going, inflation's out the roof, the deficit just keeps rolling over numbers. We keep printing money left and right. This right here is absolutely going to devastate this country. And if, again, as I told you, if you like the way that this country's running, vote for whoever you think is running it this way. But if you think there needs to be a change, you need to vote the other way. And I'm just going to leave it at that. I'm not going to get into it with anybody else about that. So, final word, and then we're going to get out of here.
Donald Trump did donate $25 million to the victims of all of them, everyone from the Gulf Coast up to West Virginia, Kentucky, to Ohio, because this went all the way to Ohio, Southern Ohio, where Dave Holland's from. Another thing, music producer and singer Morgan Wallen donated $500,000.
Nice.
Final thoughts to that. On top of that, guys, when I'm on Austin Wester's behind the page, moderating or running the page, or doing anything like that, and I'm telling people what's going on and bringing the news out and saying that the schools are closed down because of opening them as shelters. I don't need people coming at me and calling my team a bunch of dumb effing people, because it is not our decision. It is the decision of the county superintendent and the emergency management directors to make that decision. We just help them give that advice. We're not the national editors. We let them run the thing. We just give y'all the receipts so you can plan accordingly and protect you and your family to the best of your abilities.
What is
all we
basically
do.
saying, he's an outlet. He's another outlet
We're
to
another
get
outlet. We're a
the
media
information. Right, another media source to get the information out that's already been put out by school officials, government officials, whatever the news is.
Exactly.
He's just relaying what is being said. I'm glad you said that because I wanted to back you up on that 100%. And I seen that little post that happened.
Yeah.
And I was very PO'd about that. Me and you hadn't had a chance to talk about that. Listen, this young man, I already told you his accolades. I already told you what he does. And I appreciate what he does. We all appreciate what he does. Look, all he's doing is taking the information that is being fed to him and feeding it to you. Okay, you may have your opinion on that, but not when it comes to government and official business. You put it out as it's put out.
Yeah, when Ron DeSantis issued an executive order for the counties when a hurricane's coming, it is a requirement, by the way, for the schools to close. It is actually a requirement. When he signs that, when he takes his pen and signs that paperwork, it is the school's right, and they're supposed to do it because the fact that there are people with special needs. E.g., you can tell I'm visually impaired, I'm blind. There are people like me that are not as equipped as I am that need them shelters.
So, and you're right. And let's even filter it down from DeSantis because you used him. If something comes out from Sheriff Gordon Smith or Will Hartley and it's in print,
Exactly.
he's just taking that information and putting it on his page and saying, hey, look,
Which I'm
this is
required
coming.
to.
This is coming from Sheriff Gordon Smith. This is coming from Superintendent of Schools Will Hartley. This has come from Mayor Scotty Roberts. Whoever the person may be that's in an authoritative position to make those statements. All he's doing is just taking it and putting it on his site.
And I'm required to when the executive order goes down because we are in a communication board. I am with Ron DeSantis, Kevin Guthrie. Kevin's a great, oh, God bless him when he goes, oh, my. Ron DeSantis is, as much as we may argue, we may disagree, Democrats, Republicans may disagree on him politically, on what he does for the state. When it comes down to it, an actual emergency, this man knows what he's doing. He has been the best governor I have seen in the time I've gotten into weather since Francis, Gene, Wilma. He is the best we have as of now. I hope someone else is coming up that's going to be as good as him, if not better. I hope so.
Again, I want to thank everybody for coming on the show. David, didn't get a chance to thank you, brother. I thank you for all these graphics that you've worked on. Looks
They're
very
excellent.
good, by the way. Beautifully pictured. Thank you for that collage of pictures that you put together. Oh my God, that was great. Even Dan was like tapping me. He was like, no, those look really.
And that was
Over the years, right?
Of years.
Oh my gosh, did you see how young looking we were 6 or 7 or 8 years ago? That was great. Oh, and by the way, that's great. And I know you're working on some other things. Nobody ever tells you, well, we try to tell you, but I just want to say for everybody, thank you for what you do. You work hard. You make sure the show runs properly and correctly. Thank you for what you do as the director and producer of this show, David.
Thank you.
Yeah, I really appreciate that.
And support his business, Harry's business, because what they did to the building, I haven't been here in about almost a month. David, very impressive. I like the way you turned this place.
Well, thank you.
Makes
Yeah,
it feel more
and-
like home.
Yeah, and the studio and everything looks
course.
really good, so we really appreciate that. Don't forget, On the Spot Motorsports Media, 7 o'clock, Mitchell Gunner and his band, Mr. Robert, will be on there. I'm not sure who their guest is, but 7 o'clock on Thursday night, you can catch On the Spot Motorsports Media. And again, we'll be back next Tuesday. Got a lot of stuff to continue with. I didn't even get to a lot of this. We could have went on till midnight tonight, but I'm tired, David. I'm hungry. So, on behalf of the Mr. Byron Bagwell, everybody that tuned in tonight, God bless you. Thank you. Have a great night. Have a great rest of the week. Don't forget the Tornadoes play Friday night against Palatka, their last home game of the season before we hit 4 games on the road. And then hopefully, David, we'll be in the playoffs. I think we will, just the way that the Tornadoes are playing right now. But make sure you go catch that last home game. It's senior night over at the ball field. Just real quick, the Tornadoes are ranked number 1 in the Jacksonville and Northeast Florida region. They're the number 1 ranked team there. They're the number 1 ranked team in their class in Class 2A. They are the number 10 overall team in the whole state in all classifications.
Nice.
All.
Nice. Wow.
Out of all those high schools, and they are ranked 74th nationally.
Wow.
Yeah.
Out of how many?
Out of, well, they rank the top
Thousands?
300 schools.
Oh, 300?
But that's the top 300. They're 74. But there's 28,500 and something high schools in all of America. And we're number 74
Wow.
with 38 players. That's crazy. That is just what gives me 38 to 40 players. That's what we're doing this with. But they're good. They're on a roll. Hopefully they can keep it up.
Who we playing?
Palaca, the Panthers. The Palaca Panthers.
I heard they were pretty tough.
They're not bad. They ran into a buzzsaw last night because they couldn't play Friday night. They played last night. Newberry tore them up 32-0. So they're coming off of a big loss right there. Now they've got to come play the Tornadoes that hadn't played in a minute. And they're going to
give that kitchen the
Yeah, boy, the Tornadoes. You know they want to hit somebody anyway. Yeah,
Yep.
so
And that's Friday.
That's
and
Friday
we got
night.
a hurricane coming in.
that's what he says.
No hurricane.
Okay.
Tropical
hurricane.
disturbance. Late Saturday through Monday. No hurricane. Shh.
Okay, good. All right, no hurricane.
We're not talking about that now.
We're leaving.
All right, we're leaving. Hey, God bless you. Have a great week. Have a great night. Have a great everything. We'll see you Friday night at the football game. Take care, guys. Love each and every one of you. Goodbye.